Hello everybody, thanks for dropping in. This is the first video of a series I plan to do long-term called Game Bytes, where I will be taking 10 minutes of your time and explaining video game lore. In the Age of Ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog, a land of grey crags, arched trees, and everlasting dragons. But then, there was fire. And with fire came disparity, heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark, they came. They found the souls of lords within the flame, Nito, the first of the dead, the Witch of Izalith and her daughters of chaos, Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight and his faithful knights, and a furtive pygmy so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone scales. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. Yet Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights, and amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark sign. Yes, indeed, the dark side brands the undead, and in this land the undead are corralled and led to the north, where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate. And that's how we're introduced to the world of Lordran, with a kick-ass cutscene and a bone-chilling monologue. Now, since From Software doesn't really spoon-feed any lore past this cutscene, let's get into what it all means. In the beginning, before the time of man or gods, there was nothing but towering trees larger than skyscrapers, shrouded by a thick fog that fed into deep ravines in the earth. Above soared mountainous dragons with lives that ran eternal. Not much is known about the first flame, besides one day it was created, and along with it came life, death, and darkness. From darkness came the Hollow. 4 of these creatures will shape the world for the rest of history. They will venture to the kiln of the first flame and find 4 Lord souls within the pyre. One of death, which will be taken by Nito, the first of the undead. One of life, taken by the Witch of Izalith and her 7 daughters. A soul of pure light will be taken by Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, followed by his loyal knights. And the last soul is split into several pieces, and given to those around them by a figure who is only described as the furtive pygmy. This creates humanity. A piece of this soul can be found to this day in every man. This is called humanity. Gwyn fears humanity, so he strikes the pygmy from history. This will have grave consequences much later on. With the power imbued in these souls, they band together and challenge the dragons. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters use long-forgotten fire spells acquired from the soul to weave scorching firestorms against the dragons. Nito creates a tidal wave of disease and miasma as a tool to use against the dragons. Among the dragons, there's a weak and traitorous snake called Seath. Due to the first flame introducing the world to disparity, Seath was born without the rock-solid scales that accompany his kin. He grows resentful of his brethren's scales and goes to Gwyn with information that will change the tide of war for his favor. He reveals to Gwyn that the dragon's immortality comes from their scales, and then would teach Gwyn that he can remove these scales from them by piercing them with his lightning that he acquired from the soul. And in return, he wanted to pillage the treasuries of the dragons in search of the primordial crystal, which would make him immortal and invulnerable to outside damage as long as the crystal remains intact. Gwyn uses his mighty bolts to break off the dragon's almost impenetrable scales. The 3 lords defeat most of the dragons, leaving those who are too strong or cowardly to crawl into forgotten parts of Lordran to fight another day. Now that the dragons are defeated, Gwyn, Nito, and the Witch of Izalith all create their own lands. High in the mountains, Gwyn creates the City of Gods, Anor Londo, a city of golden light and towering steeples. Tournaments will be held annually for warriors to gain entry to this paradise. But they haven't held them in a long time, and Sen's fortress stands idle as both a pass into the city and a very dangerous obstacle toward the weak. Underground, Gravelord Nito makes the catacombs, a maze of graves where all the dead go to rest, as the Gravelord looks over them, using his powers of necromancy to ensure peace for the dead. However, a powerful cult tries to sneak its way into the catacombs to take Nito's power so they can kill the gods that preside over Anor Londo. However, they did not succeed, and their corpses lay rest deep within the catacombs. Besides Pinwheel, he survives this, but he's not that important. The first flame begins to go out due to the Lord's souls being removed by the Hallowed. The first flame needs souls to burn because the fire is linked to life, and life is linked to souls, so it uses souls as fuel to keep burning forever. Deep underground, the witch and her daughters made the not yet lost city of Izalith, where the witch and her 7 daughters, along with a ceaseless son, would later try to create a new first flame. Instead, they create something twisted and chaotic. The flame of chaos distorts life, turning the witch along with all the occupants of Izalith into demons, save one of her daughters, Quaylana. Once allies, the witch now roams over Lordran with her army of demons, a dark and powerful shadow of their former selves. Gwyn will notice this and rallies his armies to fight them. Driving the demons back into Izalith, he binds the witch to a tree. Now known as the Bed of Chaos, this keeps all the demons in Izalith with their queen, for the most part. The primordial serpent Fran seeks Gwyn to tell him about the first flame. Gwyn will journey back to the kiln of the first flame to rekindle the flame, sacrificing himself. Before Gwyn leaves Anor Londo, though, Gwyn will bestow fragments of his soul to 4 kings who preside over New Londo, the peaceful city for the undead, and his 4 strongest warriors, Ornstein, Hawkeye Go, Lord's Blade Carrion, and Artorias the Knight. Gwyn takes his knights with him to the kiln of the first flame, where he links the fire with himself as well as burning all of his knights with him, scorching their bodies from the inside and leaving their shiny silver armor now smoldering suits of solid black armor that will attack anything that gets in its way. This act also puts a deep curse on men, placing the dark sign unto their hearts, making them undying in a sense. They can still die, but they're resurrected every time, but it pulls a piece of their humanity out of them every time they die, eventually turning them back into the Hallowed. Men are prophesied to either put the first flame out or rekindle it the same way Gwyn did. The last son of Gwyn, Gwyndolin, corrals all the humans to an asylum in the north, keeping them there until the main character of Dark Souls 1 escapes, beginning the events of Dark Souls. Thank you guys for venturing into the world of Lordran with me. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys. Bye.